welcome to everybody. And I'm so happy that we are today together and we can think of Dr. Suzuki and all these wonderful developments which have taken place. And I want to say hello and welcome also to my dear colleagues, to Arjada Hasanaj from Italy, and to Linda Pyatt from San Diego, USA. And my name is Kerstin Wartberg, and I'm very, very happy about this great interest in our lecture. There were many teachers who registered, and they come from 36 countries. So that's really fantastic, from all over the world. And I'm sure that Dr. Suzuki would have been just as impressed as we are, because this is a clear proof of his method, and that still the mother tongue method is still today of great interest. And I know in Asia it's now in the middle of the night, and therefore I'm very happy and surprised that there are some Asian participants here, and most of them, I'm sure they will look the video later. But I also want to welcome all these teachers who are looking the video later. And our online courses will remain online. Our courses will remain online until the end of October. And until this time, you can still book it if you like. But now I want to pass over to Linda. She is today again our big help, and she's in charge of the technology. And she will give you now some brief explanations.
Hello, everyone. My name is Linda Pyatt, and you are welcome to reach out in the chat if needed. And we may have a little bit of time at the end for short questions, but most of the content will fill up the time of the class. So there will not be a lot of time for questions, but you're welcome to put them in the chat and we will do our best. As we pass the presentation back and forth from Kerstin Wartberg and back and forth to Arjada, if you put your Zoom in speaker view, you will have the best experience. And because we're sharing PDFs and photos and videos, if you'd like to be able to view the speaker as well as the shared content, you can select side-by-side speaker view. So I'll leave it at that, and I would like to pass the lecture over to Arjada.
Welcome, dear teachers. I'm happy to meet you all. My name is Arjada Hasanaj. I studied with Kerstin Wartberg and graduated as a Suzuki violin teacher of the German Suzuki Institute. Together with Kerstin, I developed the program Music and Movement. Now I am a teacher trainer at the German Suzuki Institute for Music and Movement. I live in Italy and teach violin at the Conservatory in Rimini, where I have a large class of violin students. Thank you for coming to our lecture today.
Thank you, dear Arjada, and thank you, dear Linda. Let's start right away, because we have to prepare us for a long journey. I would like to invite you to take a trip back with me in time, about 40 years ago in Matsumoto, Japan. This is where Dr. Suzuki lived and was teaching. And after the end of the war, he started there in Matsumoto. Here you see Dr. Suzuki's lesson room at his school, the Talent Education Institute in Matsumoto. During my studies at the Music Conservatory in Cologne in Germany, I first heard about the Suzuki method from a fellow Japanese student. After that, I became very interested in Suzuki's teaching and found out many details that fascinated me from the beginning. Then, by many incredible coincidences of fate, I found my way to Matsumoto to study with Dr. Suzuki, and there I was the first German student at his institute. We have had daily group classes and several times per week individual lessons with Dr. Suzuki. Here you see his lesson room with the portrait of Fritz Kreisler at the wall, from whom Suzuki admired very, very much. He often asked us to turn around and to play for Kreisler. Every morning there were 2 hours of group lessons, which Suzuki almost always started with the same words. Good morning. I have a new idea for you and for today's lessons. And a few minutes later, you could see one student after the other coming forward, stepping onto a small stage, and trying out the new idea. In addition to Suzuki's lessons, we received instructions also from other teachers. And here you see Miss Yoko Mori, and I learned from her many practical things of the teaching method. We went through the whole repertoire and learned systematically all the pieces and all the little preliminary exercises and difficult passages. And they were, I learned very small steps, and if these were still too big for me, I learned even tinier steps. Then the next photo, a rather unusual subject at a conservatory, and for foreign students in particular, were the weekly lessons in calligraphy. Some people may ask what the art of writing beautiful Chinese and Japanese characters has to do with the training of instrumental teachers. With this lesson, Suzuki wanted to show his students the relationship between instrumental playing and artistic brushwork. When we use the brush, our efforts and the degree of our mastery becomes visible to everyone. It's the same situation when we make music. We should realize that it is impossible to reach an artistic level without first separating ourselves from the hectic daily life. Suzuki was convinced that his students learned more during these lessons, where hardly a word was spoken, than in some other lectures. The Monday concert had a long tradition. It took place every week on Monday, and during 3 or 4 hours, each student was given the opportunity to perform on regular basis. Between performances, Suzuki often came on stage, made some remarks, and gave some encouragement, or voiced criticism too. Sometimes a student would have to play a particular piece of music for many, many weeks at the Monday concerts until Suzuki was satisfied with the result. Each concert piece was recorded on tape or video, and please remember this was more than 40 years ago. Twice I was able, yes, Linda, okay, yes, twice I was able to participate in the 4-day annual National Suzuki Teachers Conference. All teachers from Japan met here. Suzuki wanted that all teachers should continue to practice as well. During the conferences, he often played lottery with the teachers. A certain group of teachers had to pick a card, and within 3 seconds, ding, 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 they had to play a piece or start the piece, which was written on the lottery card. Even though there were hundreds of teachers in the conference hall, each one of them was highly concentrated and sometimes also a little nervous, because all of a sudden Suzuki would have the teachers aged between 20 and 30 come on stage, then those between 70 and 80, and perhaps finally all these teachers above 80. And there were still 10 of them in the last category, and each one had to perform. We, the foreign teachers and students, were no better off. We too had to come forward and prove to the ever cheerful Suzuki our individual skills. The large audience commented our efforts either with applause or with loud laughter. There were many lively activities in many rooms in the next building where children of almost any age were taught by about 20 Suzuki teachers. Every day we have had the opportunity to visit the children's lessons. We saw good lessons and also others. Teachers, parents, and students of different mentalities and many variations of everyday teaching life. This photo of my graduation concert in November 1981. In the middle of the concert, when I was playing the Bach violin concerto in A-moll with orchestra, Suzuki came suddenly on stage and told me to play the rest of the Bach concerto with the beginner bow hold, to put the thumb underneath the bow. This is just one example of how exciting it was, this life with Suzuki, and it was always full of surprises. Fortunately, the graduation concert went well, although I was very worried to drop my bow, especially during the major string crossing passage in the third movement. Another inspiring and motivating situation happened every 2 or 3 days. In the middle of the lesson, the door would open suddenly and Mrs. Suzuki's head would appear. Often she joined us. Sometimes she gave me a brief, cheerful look. That meant, "Can you come and join me for a cup of coffee in Suzuki's office?" Since the both of us were the only Germans far and wide, we always enjoyed a little chat. Suzuki himself had planned to make a written version of practice instructions for his entire violin school, along with practice cassettes. But Dr. Suzuki was only able to create practice materials for the beginning level because all his energy went into further developing and spreading the method. With these materials, he wanted to explain his teaching concept and demonstrate exercises through recordings. Here you see the first book of his almost unknown series, How to Study Violin. This book was published in 1953 and was available only in Japanese. In addition, he has published 12 audio cassettes, also only in Japanese, with the title Watashi to Okeko. This means practice with me. Suzuki showed me all his materials and drafts during my studies in Japan. When Suzuki told me to start the teacher training immediately after my return to Germany, I was a little, surprised perhaps, or I could not believe this. I had not even been able to gain experience in teaching children according to the Suzuki method. But he felt very strongly about it and assured me that he would support me with this great project. For Suzuki and also for his German wife, the development of his method in Germany was very, very important to them, because in Berlin, Suzuki had spent his most formative years with his highly respected teacher, Karl Klingler. It was clear to Suzuki that for a strong teacher training program in Germany, I would need written teaching materials that represent his methodical approach. We all know that his violin school is more or less a collection of violin pieces arranged to levels of difficulty. Therefore, Suzuki expected from me that I should create systematic teaching instructions for each piece in his violin school in order to be best prepared for my new task, the German teacher training program. Suzuki asked me to show him my drafts on a regular basis. In the years after my graduation in Matsumoto, I went to Japan 6 times, always for several weeks, to study with Dr. Suzuki and to work on the exercise books. During these years, Suzuki came to Germany twice with his wife, and he taught my students, and he gave lectures at various events. That was really a wonderful and an exciting time. Here are some of my first books for the German teacher training. Here, these yellow books, and one for book 1 and one for book 4 I have here. And these were the test versions. And from this, the step-by-step and the recital training series developed. And these publications are still on the market. Suzuki wrote a foreword for me that I should use for all my publications. He wrote that he is pleased because I wanted to share his teaching method and philosophy with the interested reader. He wished my publication a large circulation and hoped that it falls on fertile ground. During the last 4 decades, I have been working with great interest and passion to create materials that document and support Dr. Suzuki's teaching concept. Dr. Suzuki's core principles remain unchanged, but with current technology, innovations have been added that meet our needs today. Thanks to the excellent skills of the pianist and arranger David Andrews and the violinist Rudolf Gehler, who is, by the way, my husband, we made up to 3 different test recordings for each volume, and these were tested by hundreds of children. These materials, my publications, are pointing out the most important teaching points of the Suzuki violin program in written and in audio form, and authorized by Dr. Shinichi Suzuki. In addition to all the many publications, an extensive online media library has also been created, including all MP3 files of all publications, new sheet music for strings and string ensemble, piano accompaniments, video tutorials, and essays. These materials can be found at imtex-online.com. This photo really reminds me of Dr. Suzuki's guiding thought that he used for many occasions. Do not hurry. This is a fundamental rule. If you hurry and collapse or tumble down, nothing is achieved. Do not rest in your efforts. This is another fundamental rule. Without stopping, without haste, carefully moving forward one step at a time will surely get you there. Now I have a question for you. What do Michelangelo, the Italian sculptor and painter, and Shinichi Suzuki have in common? And Linda will show us the answer. They both dedicated their lives to their tasks and did not stop constantly trying to improve, deepen, and develop them. Suzuki even went a few steps further. We should not only learn new things every day, but also change our weaknesses into strengths or merits. For Suzuki, learning meant always being open and flexible. In 1981, when Suzuki was already 83 years old, the first European Suzuki conference took place in Denmark. At that time, I was studying in Japan with Dr. Suzuki. He asked me to accompany him and his wife to Denmark and to be one of his assistants at this event, which was very important to him, the first European conference. In the following video, you can certainly feel the passion of Suzuki when he encouraged the teachers to come up with new teaching ideas.
All teacher, all work, we work together always. That is my report on which I studied already about such teaching. 46 years old. So from experience, that is my but everybody work together. The new idea, and later so easy, same as mother tongue. Mother tongues, nobody, no mother, no father have trouble to teach own children. Wonderful educator, but don't know how. Only children of all worlds happiness. And children must be educated. So possibility everybody has wonderful, but so poor children so not educated. That is I cannot see. I must work for every child be educated. That is my whole life. and I live for this one. I don't want. What do you want? Ask me. I want only this one. All teacher, all work, we work together always. That's everybody work together. The new idea, new idea, new idea.
Now I want to give you an example that shows how hard Suzuki has worked to improve his method. While I was in Japan, Dr. Suzuki came to class one morning and was really excited. It was probably early 1981. He said, "For many years, I have been thinking about this question. At what part of the bow should children start to play the twinkle variations? Where do they find it easiest and where do they get the best results in a long run? That's why I started an experiment many years ago. 2 large groups with hundreds of students tested different options. In the Tokyo group, all students started the twinkle variations at the middle of the bow. And in the Osaka group, they started it at the balance point. This is about the 1/4 point. Over the years, the sound quality of the second group, which started at the 1/4 point, has turned out to be much better. Suzuki then said with high conviction, "From today on, all teachers and students start the twinkle variations at the balance point and use at the beginning no more bow than to the middle, so a tiny bit of more bow. This means that the children only need to move the arms to have one. They only need one movement for this little part of the bow, and this they can always use the whole arm. This makes it easier for them to transfer the arm weight onto the string. And as a result, the sound becomes much more consistent and controlled. If the child can play the first few pieces with confidence and good sound, then we can expand the bow range and transfer the good sound to other parts of the bow. This means before 1981, the students played the twinkle variations still in the middle of the bow, and they had to open their arm and to use also a little wrist movement. This often resulted in a poor sound quality because the children could not bow parallel to the bridge and could not stay at the right contact point. So this happened sometimes, as we all know. You can see from this that Dr. Suzuki, at the age of 83, still carried out a further development of his method. For each piece in volume 1, Dr. Suzuki showed me, and of course the other students and teachers, the new bow distribution in detail. However, Suzuki always pointed out that these were only recommendations. The sound quality is always more important than a strict concept of bow division. Now you know why many teachers who studied with Dr. Suzuki have different concept of technical topics. If you look, for example, in the quite famous book of William Starr, the Suzuki violinist, you see that he shows there a completely different bow division. And of course, William Starr describes in his book Suzuki's teaching of the 1960s, so about 20 years ago. But Suzuki himself had continued to work on his method and has constantly improved it. That is why some details seem to be in conflict, but in reality, they show Suzuki's different stages of development. My good fortune was that I remained in close contact with Suzuki and his wife until the end of their lives. To Suzuki, it was clear that the future success of a violin student depends to a great extent on the quality of teaching in the beginning phase. This is where the basic principle of violin playing should be learned. However, for the important beginner stage, you can find in the Suzuki Violin School only very few written instructions and no audio recordings at all. Fortunately, there are some video recordings that show how lively Suzuki taught young violin students. The following video is about the connection between music and movement. Watch how Suzuki taught these young children and how this area has developed over decades.
First of all, these fingers here, they really have very little strength, basically. So to build them up, to develop their strength, we have this exercise. Let's try it. I think all of you here have a lot of strength. So try holding your arm out, upward, and open all your fingers like this. And then make a strong ring with your index finger and thumb. Strong. This way. Good. Now this time, the melody is, it's fast, hands up, and when you do it with your little finger, wave your hand. Okay, start. Fine. You were able to wave your hands too, weren't you? Okay, we want to...
By the way, in the Summer Academy program, you will find a whole teacher development course for music and movement. Considering that the pre-twinkle phase can take many months, sometimes more than a year, there is very little information about it in the Suzuki materials. And what's even more lacking is that there are absolutely no audio recordings for the pre-twinkle students to listen to and to play along with. There are only a few printed basic exercises in the Suzuki violin school, but they were already out of date when I studied in Japan 40 years ago. Suzuki told me I have still so many things to develop and to improve, and to visit so many teachers in other countries. This absolutely fills my entire life. I just don't find the time to work on revising and improving my publications and on writing down all these new ideas. But you, he meant me, you can start to draft and to update the teaching material first of all for your German teacher training program. So I started to organize all my many notes on Pre-Twinkle and put them into a systematic order. And then I asked Suzuki many questions and watched lessons of the best teachers in Matsumoto, Kyoto, and Tokyo. My first goal was to create a solid documentation of all learning steps and also write down many little preliminary exercises with music. After that, I made my first drafts for Pre-Twinkle, and so I moved forward with this repertoire step by step. Here you can see some pages of my newest online material from 2021. Let's Practice Together is the title. I have dedicated an entire book only to the Pre-Twinkle phase. It contains 45 pages, 73 audio recordings, and many videos. It is a documentation of Suzuki's teaching, but also includes elements that I have developed and updated for today's teachers and students. As mentioned already earlier, there were no audio recordings for the Pre-Twinkle songs at all. However, listening to these first rhythms and songs was very important because this is where learning according to the mother tongue system should start. We all know that listening is much more than just only memorizing a piece of music. We also use the Pre-Twinkle recordings for hundreds of music and movement exercises for rhythm training or for posture training and for becoming familiar with the sounds of violin and piano. You can find the complete material of Let's Practice Together in the online media library. And this is really one fantastic news. All compositions by Shinichi Suzuki, like Allegro and Perpetual Motion, are now finally included, which were denied to me by the ISA in the step-by-step editions. By the way, perhaps you want to have some intensive training on the step-by-step material. In the Summer Academy program, you find also 2 development courses, Introduction to Step-by-Step 1A and 1B. Altogether, they have 12 video lessons and extensive course material. You can still subscribe now if you want. You have seen in the last 2 videos Arjada with many music and movement exercises. But Arjada is not only a specialist for music and movement, she is also a Suzuki violin teacher, and she will show us now the most important Pre-Twinkle songs that the children learn on the violin.
Thank you, dear Kerstin. Let's start with the first song, the rhythm on E. Before playing the song on the violin, we have practiced it in countless ways. We were clapping, singing and dancing this song. We have done exercises with the bow on the air, on the shoulder or soft on the arm and more. In this song there are always 2/4 rests between each rhythm. We call them the ready, play, rests. Like this, taka taka stop stop, ready, play. Now I play the rhythm on E with ready, play, rest. Ready, play. Ready, play. Ready, play. Ready, play. Ready, play. Ready, play. After that, the child plays this song on the A string. It is called rhythm on A. The third song is the rhythm on E and A. Here it is important to change the strings silently during the second rest. Let me play the rhythm on E and A for you. Ready? Play. Ready? A. Ready? E. Ready? A. Ready? E. Ready? A. Now, several songs with the fingers of the left hand are following. Here it is important that the fingers are lifted or dropped as fast as possible during the first rest. Sorry. Okay. Now I play the rhythm with the 3 fingers without bow, only with the left hand. And during the piano introduction, I prepare the left hand. 2, 3. Taka taka stop stop hop. 2. Taka taka stop stop hop. 1. Taka taka stop stop hop. 8. Taka taka stop stop. 1, 2, 3. Taka taka stop stop hop. Play. Taka taka stop stop hop. Play. Taka taka stop stop hop. Play. Taka taka stop stop. After some more Pre-Twinkle song, we can play the first Twinkle variation with rests. The children already know the melody with and without rests really well through many music and movement activities, and therefore it will be quite easy for them. Here the rule is like always. Ready is for the left hand and play is for the right hand. This means, in short, left before right or finger before bow. There are many recordings for each Twinkle rhythm and for the theme with this practice pattern. Now I play for you the first variation with rests, just the beginning. We prepare the bow. Ready? Play. E, play. 1, play. E, play. 1, 2, 3, play. 2, play. 1, play. 8, play. And so on. You can continue all this variation with the rests. Soon the child will be able to play the first variation without rests. However, with one exception. During the difficult change from the open E string to 1, 2, 3, A3, a quarter rest will be necessary until the little fingers can find the right spot quickly enough. Now I play the beginning of this variation with stop only before the third finger. Preparation. Ready? Play. One, two, three, play. And so on. You can continue in this way with the stops only before the third finger. This step will also soon be mastered, and gradually the child will have learned to play the Twinkle variations in slow practice tempo and in performance tempo. And now I pass this back to Kerstin.
Thank you, dear Arjada. This was a very nice demonstration. By the way, in Japan, the teachers did not say, of course, ready, play. They said dong, hai. So hai heißt ja, yes, let's start then. So these 2 syllables are very important until the highest level, I would say. Suzuki was probably one of the very few teachers who recognized and developed from the beginning the topic of sound as one of his central teaching points. Of course, a systematic work on individual learning steps was also very important for him, but his focus was always on the development of a beautiful sound. Let's go back to the pre-twinkle phase, because this is where Suzuki's sound concept already starts. Why did Suzuki choose the first twinkle rhythm with the 16th notes taka taka and the 2 8th notes stop stop? So first of all, small movements are very easy to do and to control. And the other aspect is to start from the beginning with a combination of 2 types of bow strokes. Taka taka stands for the preparation for détaché, and stop stop is a preparation for martelé. Suzuki wanted to introduce these 2 different bow strokes right from the beginning. This means the children are learning a very small musical unit that is interesting, challenging, and lively in itself. Even if this rhythm is repeated very often, we need concentration and precision each time when playing these 2 types of bow strokes. We now want to focus on the martelé bow stroke. By the way, we call these quick stopped bow strokes lightning strokes. This name is easier for the children to remember and to connect with a quick stopped movement. Arjada will show us now also some examples of these lightning strokes in the Suzuki literature.
I start now with Song of the Wind. Here we find many lightning strokes. We focus on bowing all the notes with the same speed and having a short rest after each note. Now I play the beginning of this song. In another lesson, we can focus on the natural weight of the arm. We should not press or squeeze or slip around with the bow. Working on the sound means, first of all, to listen carefully to one's own playing. This is the most important goal. Now let's look at perpetual motion. This piece requires good stamina and energy. There are 64 lightning strokes played one after the other, and all notes should have a good sound quality. Often, down bows and up bows are not equally loud. The teacher should listen carefully to the student's sound. He or she can pay attention to 3 points: to the start of the tone, the sound during the bow stroke, and to the end of the tone with a resonance after each note. This way, the teacher will easily find out how to help the student. Now I play the beginning of perpetual motion with lightning strokes. This way, you can do all the moto perpetual. Once the basic of the lightning strokes are learned, we will meet this bow stroke again in higher volumes. For example, at the end of volumes 4 and 5, you will even find the twinkle rhythm in bass concerto for 2 violins. We can practice the rhythm on the D string a few times without rest and start the concerto as soon as sound is clear, strong and resonant. volume 6 to the second movement of the Handel Sonata in F major. Here too we can find the twinkle rhythm. I start with a short preparation and after I play the beginning of this movement. This was all the lightning strokes, how it will develop from the beginning and to the advanced level. And now I pass back to Kerstin.
Thank you, dear Arjada, for this nice presentation. And for Suzuki, the free ringing sound had a central place in his teaching. He called this sound the bell tone because it should sound like a ringing bell. And in this moment, the bell is ringing outside, but I think you can't hear. It's very soft from me here in the back. In contrast to the lightning strokes, the bell tone is played more slowly, ding, ding, and does not stop suddenly, not this way. Suzuki often began his lesson with pizzicato or open string exercises. And now I ask Arjada again whether you can show us some examples of the bell tone, please.
Yes, of course. I will play for you the bell song with pizzicato. The fourth finger is placed in fourth position over the high dot. Here the teacher can place a small sticker. Sorry, the playlist go on. This exercise can be practiced already during the pre-twinkle phase. Here we are practicing not only the bell tone, we train the fourth finger as well as the correct left hand position. Later we try to play this nice ringing sound with the bow. The bell tone can be found in many pieces of Book 1. For example, in the theme, Lightly Row, Go Tell Aunt Roddy, and Long, Long Ago. Now I play some examples of the bell tone for you. The beginning of the theme that we play in a little amount of the bow, and Long, Long Ago when we play, or better the children have to learn to play with more bow. And I play just the beginning. I'll show you. Now we go in Beethoven's Minuet in Volume 2, and we start to learn a new development of the bell tones. Suzuki called this bow exercise Casals tonalization because it comes from the cellist Pablo Casals, whom Suzuki greatly admired as a musician and as a person. It is said that all of Casals' students worked regularly on this sound exercise. The technical basis is a pianissimo bow stroke on which small tone waves are placed. The bow speed should always remain the same while the bow produces small tone waves with the help of the arm wave and small thumb impulses. Here is an exercise to prepare the tone waves. It is called the wave song. I play just the beginning of this. In Beethoven's minuet, we start to use these tone waves for the first time in a piece. I play the beginning of this minuet. Now, I would like to close this part with a video. Katrin Averdung, violin teacher trainer of the German Suzuki Institute, has recorded a whole series of video with pieces and exercises starting from book 5. Now, you can see a very short part from the second movement of the Vivaldi G minor concerto. We watch the exercises for Casal's tonalization.
Thank you, dear Arjada, and also thank you, dear Katrin, for these nice demonstrations. So the bell tone, which starts already in the theme of Twinkle, makes a big development until what we now just heard. Of course, it continues later also. Still this sound training in higher volumes, but this was already very beautiful and impressive to see these developments. Now I would like to give you a really brief insight of how we work with students of the intermediate level. Here too, Suzuki was strongly inspired by the nature and its processes of development. He often told us a good teacher is like a good gardener. The teacher should take care of each plant and help it to grow and to become big, strong, and beautiful. When students of the intermediate level learn a new piece, we can compare this process with the stages of development in nature. During the learning phase, We start with preliminary exercises for the new piece and take care of technical demanding passages first. We also divide the new piece into small sections and practice it at a slow tempo. During the shaping phase, we play the piece in slow practice tempo and focus on the musical shaping of phrases. During the performance phase, we play the entire piece in medium and in performance tempo. The focus is on developing physical stamina and the ability to concentrate for a long period of time. Other aspects are the confident mastery of the musical text and the technical challenges. But the most important topic is to play with dynamics and full expression, and of course, many colors of a beautiful sound. During the playing through practice, the child should not stop whatever happens. For Suzuki, the most important phase was the learning phase. Children often like to play through the pieces instead of practicing them. We have to show our students exactly what slow practice means. We can explain it to them, for example, play everything in slow motion, every note, every bow stroke, every shift, and every string crossing. Pay special attention to intonation and to the distances between the fingers, to the different finger patterns. And you should know which fingers play half steps and which fingers play whole steps. But the most important also in slow tempo is to play with a beautiful, healthy sound. When we were playing slowly and the sound was not nice, then Suzuki said always, "Oh, I think it sounds that you are a little ill. Your sound is like like this, but I want to have a healthy sound. And if it's piano or fortissimo, it doesn't matter. Healthy is always a good contact and a ringing sound, and not so something like unclear and not ringing." What also is very important in the learning phase, the learning phase includes also preliminary exercises for the new piece. And the following exercises are from my series Recital Training, which includes all pieces of Suzuki volumes 4 and 5 with audio recordings in 3 different tempos and with many helpful exercises. Let's watch a short video where you can hear a few of the preliminary exercises. So there are, of course, still many, many more exercises, but like all areas today, we can only touch some points and show what happened already at the time 40 years ago, and how things developed today. And but they are all what we show until now based on the spirit and the ideas of Dr. Suzuki. And for example, there are also many exercises and very helpful for the double stops in the Seitz concerto. And this is something which is for many teachers almost so high step to work with their students, how they can develop this difficult double stop passage in the Seitz concerto. And there are many exercises which we already start earlier and build up, and children need also to learn to listen how a double stop sounds. And the later in La Folia, we learn what kind of combination sound comes with each double stop. So there are always in the resonant sound some combination notes, and if they appear in tune, then the double stop is correct. And such kind of development we start of the double stops in book 4, but it continues, of course, on the intermediate level and advanced level. Coming back now to Suzuki, Suzuki was really a great inspiration for us as person and as teacher. On one side of his personality, he stood for openness and flexibility, like we explained the example with 83 years changing all the bow division, what he was teaching for many decades. And so this kind of openness and flexibility was a very strong part of him and his personality. But on the other side, he stood also for an unconditional, clear commitment to values and virtues. Also, what kind of work and responsibility a teacher has with his students. Here I could also tell many very deep thoughts of him, but I think you understand already well, most of you, that Suzuki has had a very, very colorful personality. And until today, I think me, in any case, he still encouraged me and also many other teachers to enrich the field of music education according to our possibilities and our special abilities. Great developments and useful supplements based on Suzuki's foundation took place. New teaching areas and materials have been created, such as this wonderful Suzuki Early Childhood Education program, or in Italy we have the CML program, or music and movement, which you just saw also in the video, rhythm training programs, improvisation, ear training, parent education, ensemble literature for mixed levels and also for different levels. music reading systems, methodical teaching guides, new supplements to teacher training programs, video tutorials, online teacher development courses, and much, much more. Yes, it's a long list. I could continue still for many hours, I think, to talk about all these wonderful new developments. And I'm sure that Suzuki's call for new ideas resonates still for many of us, and even still today. Dear teachers, I would like to conclude our lecture with two of my favorite quotes by Shinichi Suzuki.
How wondrous is the life force! One feels it everywhere. Through it, we can enjoy the beauty of nature. Tiny buds become magical flowers. Every morning the birds begin to sing, and countless leaves, grasses and flowers herald to us the great life force. The living tree brings forth buds. On each branch bloom lovely flowers. It is the splendid course of nature. Man, I believe, should follow Mother Nature and bring forth fruit.